Good morning, student. My name is Shiva Mishra, and we are here to discuss the today's newspaper analysis. So let's get started. Our first topic is about the European Economic Survey 2025-26. Recently, Economic Survey came up with the data that there is an uneven distribution of secondary high schools in India. Secondary high schools provide educations at secondary level, and because of the uneven distributions of these schools, there is a breach of targets which national education policy has put upon to extend the expected years of schooling expected year of schooling from 13 to 15 years. This was a target of national education policy in 2020. There is an uneven distribution. Uneven distributions can be proved with the data given in the article that only 17% secondary education is present in rural areas and 38% urban area. And this shows the uneven distribution of it, which leads into high dropouts among the children which are aged between 14 to 18 years due to need to supplement household income. Because of the absence of secondary education systems, they get involved into the household incomes and their domestic responsibilities. So they are not able to reach the target which has been provided by the national education policy. The survey also emphasized building state capacity in higher education, which fosters academic industry collaborations, academic industries collaboration. This we had discussed in our previous analysis that India's education should be made more robust, should be made more for employment generations, not only based on the theoretical approaches, but we need to focus on the practical approaches of education. And that is why the article suggests that the state capacity in higher educations have been lacking, and it needs to be adoption of education infrastructures where there can be the collaboration between academics and industry. Thus it will directly promote the vocational education and provide the job opportunities to the students who are doing the education from their schools and colleges. And thus it also need that we need to upgrade our education systems so that we can make the education systems more globally engaged. This will also enhance the education tourism in India, where the students from foreign countries can come to India for education purposes. We must be aware of that India's at some point of time in a historical ages have hosted the many foreign students. Like we got the Takshila, which was a famous education center of the time when it was during the Guptas and Mauryan periods. We got Nalanda also. So these are the ancient universities of India which host the wide variety of foreign educationists. So based on those things, the article suggests that Indian education systems should be made more robust, should be made based on global standards so that it can attract the foreign students. That is why there was an introduction of Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhishtan Bill. About Bill, we have already discussed that it aims to replace the fragmented regulation and focus on internationalizing the higher educations. Thus, it focus on internationalizing higher education. Union Ministry had Union Minister, that is Education Minister, had came up a kind of uh, upgradation and new reforms. Like was a proposed of 23 new IITs, 21 new IIMs, 20 aims to the international levels, so that it can be the whole education systems can be upgraded and made more accessible and more competitive on the global as well as in the domestic markets. But despite of improvements in early school enrollment, the secondary age specific net enrollment rate remains low at 52.2%. This is secondary education enrollment rate, which indicates a need to retain students beyond grade 6, grade 8, sorry, because these lack of availability of education centers, the students who are doing their studies after 8, they mostly do not get the facility of those education centers, and that is why they make themselves busy in their domestic facilities where they have the domestic liabilities, they have the household businesses, they get to involved in those kind of things, and that is why we got the dropout cases here. The survey cites the periodic labor force survey, noting that nearly 2 crore adolescent, that is age between 14 to 18, are out of school with 44% of dropping rate, suggest that there is uneven distribution of secondary education system in India. The dropouts rate were 67% for the boys, 55% for the girls, which cite the domestic and care responsibilities. The survey stressed the urgency of integrating school-based vocational and skill educations. So we need to make our educations more complementary and supplementary to each other, with skills promotion, with promoting vocational knowledge, so that the whole opportunities can be created for the students after they even pass out from the schools. And that is what this article discusses about. Let's get to the next topic. The next one is space research, which 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 is its impact on the healthcare. There was a space research has significantly contributed to healthcare advancement on Earth, with over 2,000 spin-offs from NASA. That is over 350 technologies transferred by ISRO to Indian industry, including in health sectors through the ISRO's technology transfer program. The article talks about how the space research has contributed to improvement in health technology, improvement in health care facilities in India, thus pointing out that there has been a approx 350 transfer of technologies by ISRO to the Indian industries. Examples of ISRO's contribution include VSAT terminals, it is for remote healthcare, an endoscopic catheter for mucosal health, capacitate sensor for leukocyte. Thus, overall, that article talks about how the research, how the development in space industries can contribute to healthcare sectors, and thus we do not have to uh, eco chamberize the space sectors. That it will only promote the technologies in outer space, in satellites, or because space has already been and a diversified significance. Even we see its significance in agriculture, even the town planning. We got climate and weather forecasting also. So overall, the space sectors have a number of significance and that can contribute to overall development of the nations. There were transfer of technologies related to ultrasounds, CT scans, MRIs. Thus, overall, the article talks about how the research in space sectors had contributed to health sector in India. It led to digital advancements, enhancement in digital technologies. Thus, adoption of technologies can be can help the transfer or availability of healthcare sectors even in the remote areas, remotest of the remote area where the doctor cannot reach, where the hospital cannot reach, where we cannot build a big hospitals, where we cannot make our doctors to go there. So these technologies helps in uh, in promoting the healthcare services to even the uh, even to the last of the last miles who are people standing in the go. There was satellite based telemedicine. We can note these points so that while writing our mains answer, we can use these kind of keywords. It will not only boost your marks, it will not only help you to fetch the good marks, but it will also makes your answers looks more representative and more uh, more explainable. Like satellite based telemedicines, there was a purification systems, there was microbial monitoring, thus overall monitoring the microbes, viruses, movement of bacteria, all those things, even helping in clinical trials. They also help in vaccine development in ventricular ventricular assist device, and programmable pacemakers that helps in the heartbeat system in the body. There was prosthetic limbs, orthosis, which improved the space shuttle materials, and the first cochlear implant patent that was in which involved the NASA's assistance. There was invisible braces and scratch-resistant lenses were developed that has contributed to India's eye industries related to uh, spectacles or the glasses or lenses used in spectacles. There was biochemical, biomechanical, physiological models from astronaut data that helps in managing the radiobiology models. So these are the development in space sectors which has contributed to our healthcare sectors. So any type of questions which involves the significance of space sectors, even the question can be asked relating those healthcare sectors and space, that how the how the development in research, how the investment in research and sectors in the ISRO and even the space sectors, how this can benefit the India's other sector. So there can be a correlative questions which can ask the wide range significance of ISRO's development or development in space sector. So these points becomes a significance for us. Next topic is about economic survey only, where it highlights the growing issue of digital addiction. The economic survey of 2025-2026 have came up with a report where it highlights the issue of digital addictions and screen related mental health. Screen related mental health problems, especially we see because We see more of the children are always watching the mobile phones. They have the much increment in screen times. So there is more problem seen in the children, and and the problem is also visible in adolescents, which includes cyber safety education, peer mentor programs, parental training on screen time management. This is what the article suggests, that we need the interventions to tackle these kind of screen related mental health problems, digital addictions, and interventions is like intervention we need required at that point is that cyber safety education, peer mentor programs, and parental training on screen time management. These kind of solution have been suggested in this article, so that in order to tackle the screen related mental health problems and digital addictions, which have been highlighted by the economics survey of 2025-2026. The survey also recommends the network level safeguard. Network levels safeguard, such as differentiated data plans for educational versus recreational use, recreational use. We can supplement our educational educations in order to have its more impactful result, where we can use those educations knowledge for recreationals. We can help those in development of overall personality of the humans, which has the high risk of content categories. There was a issue where we came to face that there is a algorithmic production of resources, and this algorithmic content has been presented based on the watching pattern and based on the consumption pattern of the uh, children or digital or the one who is consuming the digital goods, and that creates like a echo chamber of the human mind, where the person, if someone is watching videos of any particular ideology, let's assume ideology, it has watched some of the videos of left orientated ideologies. So the algorithm shaped the content in such a way that only the videos or the content or digital goods related where the left ideologies have been promoted is being provided as a consumption, and that creates an echo chamber in today's world. It, the article also proposes that expanding the national Telemanas program. Telemanas program. It is a program which include the digital addiction treatment. The program was basically brought up by the government of India to address the mental health problems in India. The youths who are facing the depression-like issues, the people uh, who are facing the mental health issues, they can directly uh, contact with the counselors have been provided under this digital platform. So the article suggests that the digital addiction treatment should also be included in this Manas program, which by integrating the educational institutions, we need a training of dedicated counselors to promote help seeking behavior. The survey emphasized the need for technology enabled public health surveillance We need a tech-enabled surveillance where we can easily be accessible to the people who face that kind of issues, and they can easily contact to the counselors while not facing any kind of privacy concerns. There should be a secrecy while if they are approaching to the counselors. Their behavior should be uh, in controlled, so they can be a more accessible and more uh, we can say more valuable things which will add to these kind of problems. We need a sustained investments. The article suggests that we need the investment in preventive cares, in nutritional patterns. We faces earlier we used to face that there was a food crisis. Now we face the nutritional crisis, where the food has been provided to the people, but they lack the nutrition in their body. Because of lack of nutrition, also we face a kind of mental health issues. So this is also should be included while promoting the digital mental health. Because in India, the economic survey tells us comes up with the data that since 1990, India has reduced its maternal mortality rate, that is MMR, by 86%. We have able to reduce our maternal mortality rate uh, by 78 by 86%. Under 5 mortality rate have been reduced by 78%. Neonatal mortality rate have been reduced by 70%, surpassing the global average. The infant mortality rate decreases by more than 37% from 40 deaths per thousand live birth in 2013 to 25 deaths per thousand live births in 2023. The article talks about how the health situations in India right now related to maternal mortality rate, which reduced by 86%. We got the reduction in under 5 mortality, neonatal mortality. We got the reduction in infant mortality rate, which reduced by 37%. Now in 2023 data, we have only 25 deaths per birth, thousand live birth. The definition itself becomes an important. The definition of maternal mortality rate. What is maternal mortality rate? What is infant mortality rate? The person should be aware of, because in many situations, in the in objective type questions, there can be a question. Also, we had the previous year questions where it will give you the situation where you have to match the rates with its definition. So there can be confusion. So I suggest you guys to have go back and read once the definition of these keywords. The definition becomes itself an important for our exam, and although the data itself becomes an important not only for the prelims but also for the mains perspective. There was a clinical psychologist who notes that pandemic increased the screen dependence, exacerbating the lifestyle diseases, and suggest preventive strategies like exercise and stress management to reduce the screen dependence. And this is what article suggests, that because of the COVID pandemic, people stayed at home. There was a change in work culture. There was new innovations where people start to working from their home. So there was a work from home cultures, which automatically has increased the screen time ratio, the screen dependence. People used to work long hours while sitting on their phones, sitting on their laptops. That increases the screen time dependence, and that created or exacerbated the situations where people faces different kind of disease. And thus, articles suggest that we need to adopt a preventive strategy where we should promote the exercise, we should promote the stress management among the youths and among the adolescents. The Vinay Agrawal, one of the former national president of Indian Medical Association, he highlights the impact of lifestyle, food choices on disease like fatty liver, obesity, diabetes mellitus, and compounds. This is what the article talks about. Next one is the article has been already discussed that India recently convened the defense type that ministerial meetings with India and Saudi Arabia, and the the new meeting is being held in Delhi because of West Asia recently facing a multiple conflicts issues, and it's still India has choose to establish or strengthen the ties with the Saudi Arab, and there was a instability in India Saudi Arab relations because we saw the defense deal with the Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and thus Saudi Arab was selling the defense equipments and fighter jets to the Pakistan. That was a concern for India because there was apprehension, uh, and although Pakistan would do that, this is not a new thing to apprehend, but there was an apprehension that these gadgets, these gadgets can be used to attack India, and that there was a instability in the bilateral relation between India and Saudi Arabia. But recent, India and Saudi Arabia convened the defense ties. They had came up with the ministerial meetings, which recently held in New Delhi. There is a Arab League which was made to promote the peace in West Asia. It was formed in Cairo on March 22, 1945. This data itself becomes an important because this body can be asked in our prelims question directly. So the information we noted down that Arab League, it was formed in Cairo, that is Egypt, and in 1945 with the 7 members. Now it has increased to 22 states. So when it was established, there were 7 members, and now it has increased to 22 states. That is from North Africa and West Asia. The countries include North Africa and West Asia. India's formal engagement with the League began with MAU in 2002. India was initially not the part of Arab League, but its engagement with Arab League has established in 2002 with signing of Memorandum of Understanding. The Arab India Cooperation Forum. This is a new engagement when it has got concluded. So in 2008, we came up with Arab India Cooperation Forum, where India is having the cooperative engagement with the Arab countries. The first meeting was held in Manama, Bahrain, that is the new initiative the India and Arab countries chambers of commerce, industry and agriculture is being inaugurated during the current visit. India has signed a strategic partnership with Oman, UAE, Egypt, Qatar, enhancing the strategic convergence with region. There can be a question where it can ask the member of uh, Arab League nations. This could be asked because earlier it has asked the member of NATO countries. There has been the question related to members of G20 countries, so where the countries can exceedingly being in number more than 20 or 40. So these can be a point to be noted because it becomes an important information. India recently signed the deals with the members of these Arab League, that is Oman, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. These countries becomes more significance of belonging to the West Asia. India support the region in multilateral forums like BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It because of these, the countries belonging to Arab League are also part of the BRICS nation, like Egypt, Ethiopia, UAE is a part of BRICS. We got the members in SCO also, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organizations. Thus, these will align the India and West Asia's strategic vision. India is a strategic partner in Saudi Vision 2030. There was bilateral between the India and Arab League, which exceeds to 40 billion, thus indicating the development in trade-related uh, pacts in with between the Saudi Arabia and India. There is one more development which took place while the presidency of G20, that is India Middle East Economic Corridor. This is a kind of alternatives to the BRI, Belt and Road Initiatives of China, where it has promoted the connectivity through railroad waterways between the India, Middle East, and Europe through the corridors. There was also a promotion of Rupee cards. We got the adoptions of UPI, the India's indigenous innovations in finance sectors to promote digital payments. So UPI, Rupee, this has been promoted India on a foreign basis, and recently UAE has adopted the India's Rupee cards and that rupee dirham settlements. There can be easily the transaction between the two countries. The region supplies 60% of India's crude oil. So the Arab nations, these Arab League nations or the West Asia regions, it provide the 60% to India's crude oil supplements, 70% to natural gas, and 50% of fertilizer. So this has the significance of India's uh, import of trades, especially our energy sectors, because still India produces its much of the energy from the fossil fuels and that we import from these nations. Fertilizers, which is great significance for agriculture sectors, it constitutes 50% of the fertilizer imports of India. There has been the defense partnership also, and other common issues like terrorism, extremism, radicalization. There has been the collaboration on these issues also with the Arab nations and India. This is the article which discuss about this, and there are some menial issues also we have in the newspaper, that according to 2017 national health policy, which aimed to increase the government health expenditure from 1.15% to 2.5% of GDP, that is only calculated in GDP only, by 2025. But this goals remains unmet. This was a goal of 2017 National Health Policy, that it will increase the government expenditure on health care sectors from 1.5% to 2.5% by 2025. But still, we have unmet the targets. So this article talks about that only. There was a public health spending in India is very low, even when comparing to the Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and other BRICS nations. There was a during COVID-19 pandemic, There was out of increased increment in out of pocket expenditures. Public health spending as a percentage of GDP increased during the COVID pandemic, but due to the state contributions, unions government spending has decreased after the pandemic. There was health and education cess, which is at 4% above the taxable incomes, which was intended to expand the education and healthcare sectors in India, but still only a portion of is allocated to health. So not much of the portion of those cess and surcharges has been utilized for the healthcare sectors. There is a union spending on health transfer to state for centrally sponsored schemes like national health missions has declined. So the union contribution to these missions has also declined. There were health schemes like Pradhan Mantri Swasth Suraksha Yojana. We got the nutrition and health research program also, where it got the budget cuts in the last year budget or the last of the last year budget. Thus, we also have launched the National Health Mission in 2005, which has been stagnant or funding has been reduced over the time. And thus this article talks about how the the healthcare sector suffers in India, not only from the policy backdrop, but also from the lack of funding, from the stagnant fundings, or even it has reduced to some extent. The key points to be noted that 2017 National Health Policy, we need to uh, note the National Health Mission of 2005, Pradhan Mantri Swasth Suraksha Yojana. So these can be and point where we can utilize while writing the mains answer, that these are the initiatives of the government to promote the healthcare sector in India. But still, the healthcare sector in India face setbacks, not only because of the policy issues, but also there is a lack of funds for these sectors. There was an increase in spending on healthcare sectors during the COVID pandemic, but after that also it remains stagnant or even it got reduced. Next topic is again the data of economic survey, that is it highlights the positive employment scenario in India, citing a decline in unemployment based on periodic labor force survey result. There was PLFS, periodic labor force survey, which has been brought in order to uh, provide in data related to employments, unemployments, working conditions of the people in India. And thus PLFS survey indicates that there was a reduction in unemployment rate in India. Despite of employment growth, the survey raises concern. We got the improve in employment generation. According to PLFS survey, but article says that it raises a concern about income volatility and financial inclusion. Income volatility suggests that there is a volatility of income. Means the one person is getting, there is also inequality of income. There is a volatility in income. That is, the increment and decrement of the income has been on very short span. So this creates a concern. Despite of increasing the employment sections, despite of decreasing the unemployment in India, increasing of employment conditions, number of people are getting employment, especially the people are getting the jobs in informal sectors. The volatility in income, there is a drastic reductions and drastic increment of the uh, salaries, because at some point of time when there is a post in economic, recently we seen during the COVID pandemic where uh, there was a number of hiring of employees, but later on after the COVID-19 pandemics there was a number of peoples who were ousted from their job. So that leads to volatility in income of the people. There are also the issues of financial inclusion. Financial inclusion means the people lack the banking account facilities, they lack the digital accounting systems, they lack the PF sections, they lack the pension facilities. So there has been the financial inclusion also as a point of concerns, which need, an article suggests that to come over these problems, we need structural reforms in the economy. Recently, the implementation of four labor codes, we saw the improvement in the facilities in the gig workers and the temporary workers. Still, this this code, the code was also having a drawbacks, that leading to a wide range of protest by the gig workers, as we have seen recently. So, in order to overcome these concerns, we need to do an structural reform in the economy. We need to do a tax rationalization, and we need to focus on skill development among the people. Recently, the reform in GST, that is GST 2.0, and state implementing four labor reforms, that is four labor code, that has increased the labor force participation and employment growth in industry and services. But these codes also lacked the expectations of women's workers, especially, and the gig workers. They have been the got the facilities of social security, but they still lack most of the facilities like the fixed working hours. Like there was an issue of a payment also. There, these workers assign their tasks based on the algorithmic issues, and that is also that creates more income volatility among these workers. And thus, this article talks about that there was a there was a growth in freelancing, there was a growth in delivery sections, there was growth in ride sharing kind of job, with over 77 lakh creation of job, which was it was there was a 77 lakh of increment of jobs from 2020 to 2025, and saw a 55% rise. And thus the article concludes at that gig workers face thin file credit access issue, with platform algorithms controlling work allocation, performance monitoring wages, supply demand matching, leading to concern about the algorithmic biases and burnouts. This, these things will create more income volatility among the workers. Thus, this is all about this article, and this is all about the today's news analysis. Thank you for watching.